So you getting any bang for your buck? Is an Ivy League school education still worth it?
Well, they have among the most generous financial aid packages, but not everybody's going to qualify for it.
Predatory, for-profit loan servicing companies have a history of misleading borrowers, and the worst part is, borrowers don't even get to choose their loan servicer.
When you pay for a school like Yale, you're not necessarily paying for the education. I don't think our education is $70,000 worth more than your education. What we are paying for is the opportunities and the connections.
So is it worth it? Here are my opinions. I went to Northwestern University, which a lot of people might consider prestigious because it's been a technically top 10 school the last few years according to US News and World Report rankings. I'm using air quotes because we're usually tied for 9th with about 3 other schools. Now, having graduated and worked in the real world, I feel like I have more perspective and insight as to whether or not going to a prestigious university is worth the cost. To be completely honest, I don't think the quality of education at Northwestern or any other expensive university is significantly different from the quality of education at a lesser known school. If you Google the syllabus for an econometric class at a name brand school and then the syllabus at a lesser known school, the subject material is going to be very similar. A lot of the schools even use the same Wooldridge textbook. Beyond that, most of what you learn in college is stuff you teach yourself. In most classes, you might meet for 50 minutes 4 times a week. During those 50 minutes, you listen to a very old, tenured professor drone on in a monotonous voice in a giant lecture hall while you and most of your classmates take notes on your laptops, i.e. browse Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon. After each of these 50-minute lectures, you go back to your dorm or the library and you read the textbook or you look at the lecture notes and push through the assigned reading or problem sets for 5 hours. In college, I was rarely in class for more than 20 hours a week. Usually it was closer to 10 hours a week. If you calculate the cost of education per lecture at a top 10 school, students often pay hundreds of dollars per lecture. Given the amount of information students actually absorb during lectures, you could easily get a very similar education at an inexpensive university. Now, you might be thinking, what about all the job opportunities and the doors that open for you after going to a prestigious university? What about the alumni network? First, every school has alumni. Second, finding a job, especially your first job after college, is difficult regardless of the school you go to. Recruitment is a grueling, demoralizing process that everyone has to suffer through. Employment is not guaranteed by any school either. You might get lucky after only applying to one company, but that's not the case for most people. Even if you secure a nice job before graduating from an expensive university, that doesn't mean that that job will still be there when you graduate. Many of my classmates secured jobs at top investment banking and consulting companies, only to have their offers revoked or start dates delayed when the pandemic started. Although I will say, if you have a name brand school on your resume, it will help your resume stand out. That is the unfortunate reality. Recruiters are shallow and lazy, and they don't always want to spend the time to look at resumes from lesser known schools when they have plenty of applicants from well-known schools. This is because a lot of these prestigious universities have a minimum academic standard for students to get in that's already a lot higher than some of the other lesser known schools. So recruiters feel like they don't have to spend as much effort filtering through resumes from these name brand schools.
Part of the advantage of hiring an Ivy League graduate isn't the fact that they went to a high quality school, it's the fact that it was impossible to get in. And so the screening has been done for the employer by the admissions process at the school.
It's sad because there are so many talented, hardworking, really smart students who go to lesser known schools. One other thing I learned recently after graduating college and being forced to navigate the corporate world, one thing I learned is that going to a name brand school isn't the only way to get a name brand resume. There are a lot of name brand companies out there that do a similar thing to your resume that a name brand school does to your resume. If you work at a name brand company, even if it's just an internship, it will open up a lot of doors for you and help your resume stand out. And I want to clarify what I mean by a name brand company. I'm talking about the FANG companies, the top tier investment banks, Big Law, MBB, the Big Four. Even outside of these industries, every industry has their name brand companies. Maybe you're not interested in selling your soul to the finance world, fine. there are still name brand companies outside of that world. I'm talking about the Wall Street Journals of journalism, the Disneys of streaming services and movies, the Michelin stars of dining. You get the point. I have a lot of friends who currently work at or who have worked at a name brand company. They've told me that starting on day one at their fancy jobs, they would get emails sent to their work emails from recruiters at different companies with job opportunities. So don't feel like your resume and job prospects will be doomed forever if you decide to go to a more affordable school. If you're concerned about earning enough after graduation, know that the major that you choose and the industry you pursue are much better indicators of your earnings after graduation than the school you go to. If you decide to study primary education in college and you become a kindergarten teacher, your salary is going to be pretty low regardless of whether or not you went to an Ivy League school. If you're still not sure if paying more for a fancy university is worth it, just do a cost-benefit analysis in Excel. There are a lot of different ways to do this, but one way would be to build a model to help you estimate, 1, when you'll be able to pay off any loans, and 2, when you're going to be able to retire. Calculate these 2 values for every school you've been accepted to. You're going to need to make some assumptions. That's okay. You can try running the model under various assumptions and look at the different outputs.
Some universities post pretty detailed salary information for their recent graduates. For example, this is Carnegie Mellon's website. I will link to this site in the description. It has starting salaries for recent graduates by major and school. So if we look at the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, we see that graduates from the class of 2020 earned $87,000 in their first jobs after graduation on average, and 82% of the class of 2020 was employed 6 months after graduation. If we click on more post-graduation stats, we can filter by major too. I think average salaries can be really misleading, so I love this bar chart which shows the distribution of salaries. I think university sites like this can be helpful, but know that some students don't report this information, so a lot of these types of sites have missing data. If the universities you are considering don't release this type of information, you can use data from similar universities in your cost-benefit analysis.
If, for whatever reason, it will cost you the same amount of money to go to an Ivy League and community college, obviously go to the Ivy League school because your resume will have a slight edge. But if it will cost significantly more to go to the Ivy League school, do a cost-benefit analysis and see what makes sense most for your financial situation. Those are just my thoughts. This is what I'd tell my younger self. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this subject. Do you think prestigious universities are worth the cost? Comment below, and I will see you in the next video.